There's a kind of silence in a house that tells you something's off. It's not loud, not obvious. It hums underneath the usual sounds, under the ticking of the hallway clock, the distant hum of the fridge, even the scuff of your own socks against the hardwood. That silence was there when Laura came back from her weekend trip. She called it a quick reset with Maya, her oldest friend from college. Just 2 days, she said. Some hiking, maybe a winery. Nothing fancy. Nothing dramatic. She even left a note on the counter before she went. Gone for the weekend. Don't forget Leo's cleats. Back Sunday night. Love you. It was Sunday evening when I heard the door open. I was kneeling in the hallway, digging through the basket of mismatched shoes by the coat rack, trying to find one of Leo's shin guards. Laura wheeled her little green suitcase in behind her, the wheels catching slightly on the rug like they always did. Then I saw it. A black backpack sitting just inside the front door, like it had been set down in a rush. Plain, worn out. Too big to be one of the kids. Definitely not Laura's style. No keychains, no patches, no feminine touch. It looked military, gray zipper pulls, a tactical loop on the top handle. Definitely male. I blinked, stood up slowly, and asked, "Whose is this?" She glanced down as if she just noticed it, then shrugged and kept walking toward the kitchen. Oh, Maya's. She left it in the car. I told her I'd drop it off later. I followed her into the kitchen, still holding the backpack. Maya's? Since when does Maya carry around something like this? Laura opened the fridge, pulled out a carton of oat milk, and poured herself a glass. She didn't look at me. It's for her boyfriend, I think. He's ex-military or something. She asked me to hold on to it. It's not a big deal, right? Except I'd met Maya's boyfriend, Greg, at a Christmas party last year. Guy was balding, built like a dentist, and definitely not the tactical gear type. More importantly, Laura hadn't mentioned they'd be bringing anyone else along on this trip. You could have told me, I said. She gave me a tired smile, the kind that said I was overthinking things. Joel, it's just a backpack. She walked off like that settled it. And maybe it should have, but it didn't. That night I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling while the fan spun above me, slow and steady, slicing the dark. Laura had fallen asleep fast, turned away from me like she always did lately. Her phone, always face down, rested on the nightstand, charger coiled neatly around it like a boundary. I told myself I was just being paranoid. Told myself the backpack probably was Maya's. That if there was something to worry about, I'd know, right? Then, 2 days later, I was folding laundry in the den. A normal Tuesday night. Kids were upstairs, and Laura was on a video call for some school board thing she'd started volunteering with. That's when I found the socks. They were bunched inside out at the bottom of the basket. White ankle length with blue heel tabs and a stitched logo I didn't recognize. Not mine. Not the boys'. Not even Laura's. And the worst part? They looked freshly worn. Still had a faint cologne smell. I stared at them for a long time. Not dramatic, not accusatory, just confused. That evening after dinner, I held them up in the laundry room. You recognize these? Laura peeked around the corner, drying her hands on a dish towel. Oh, yeah. Maya's boyfriend again. He borrowed some stuff from the gym, and I guess I brought those back too. I nodded. She didn't even pause before answering. Didn't hesitate. But that calmness, that unbothered tone, rubbed me the wrong way. He left his socks and his backpack? She laughed. Yeah, I guess I turned into a moving company. Don't worry. I'll bring them to her tomorrow. I said nothing, but something was pulling at me. Something just beneath the surface, whispering that her answers were rehearsed. The next day it was the mug. I came home early from work. Didn't announce it. Just parked and walked in through the back. Like I always did. The house was quiet. Laura's car was in the driveway, so I figured she was upstairs, maybe resting. But when I walked into the kitchen, I noticed the smell of coffee. Fresh. Still warm. There was a mug on the counter. Not one of ours. It was red ceramic, wider at the top than the bottom, and had a tiny chip on the handle. There was a lipstick stain on the rim, deep maroon. Laura hadn't worn lipstick in weeks. Not that color, anyway. I picked it up, Turned it over. No brand logo. No mug like it in our cabinets. That's when I heard the water running upstairs. A moment later, Laura came down the steps in a robe, towel wrapped around her head. She froze slightly when she saw me in the kitchen, holding the mug. "Hey," I said carefully. "Whose mug?" She squinted. "Oh, Maya's again. She made coffee earlier while we were catching up. I must have forgotten to wash it." "Was she here?" "Yeah, briefly. I waited. I didn't see your car. She parked around the corner. She didn't want to block the driveway." She smiled again. That same easy, disarming smile she used to use on neighbors and waiters. The kind that bought her space. But this wasn't a waiter. This was me. She brushed past me, dumped the rest of the coffee, and started rinsing the mug like it wasn't even worth talking about. Like the past few days hadn't been filled with things that didn't belong. I didn't push it. Not that night. But something had changed. I could feel it. It was in the way she spoke to me like I was a coworker and not her husband. In the way she avoided eye contact when I lingered too long on her phone notifications. In the way her showers had become longer, more frequent, always right after she came home. The old Laura used to tell me everything, even dumb stuff like how much she hated the spin instructor at her gym. Yeah? There were gaps. Blank spots. I started to catalog them in my mind. The backpack. The socks. The mug. Each one could be explained away, sure. But together? They felt like shadows pointing to someone else, someone whose presence I couldn't prove but couldn't deny either. And what got to me most wasn't what she said, it was how easily she said it. Calm. Like none of it mattered. Like I was the one making it weird. But I knew my house. I knew the rhythm of our life. And now it was offbeat. Someone had been here. I could feel it. Looking back, it didn't happen all at once. That's the part that messes with your head the most, how slow it creeps in. You don't wake up one day and say, my marriage is unraveling. No. You notice little changes. Little patterns. Then, when it all falls apart, you start replaying them like old voicemail messages, wondering how you didn't catch it sooner. The first shift came when Laura started working out more. We'd always had our routines. She'd hit yoga 2 or 3 times a week, maybe run a few miles on weekends. But somewhere around late February, she started waking up early, really early. Like, before sunrise early. She said it helped her clear her head. Some days it was a spin class. Other days, a boot camp with a trainer she never named. I asked once who the trainer was and she laughed it off. Some new guy, she said. Just calls himself Coach. Coach. No last name. No first name. Just Coach. Then there were the showers. That's when I really started paying attention. Before, she used to shower after a workout and call it a day. Now, she showered before she left and again when she got back. Sometimes long ones. 20, 30 minutes. Once, she ran the water for nearly 45 while I made the boys breakfast downstairs. I knocked on the door that morning and said, "You good?" She shouted back through the steam, just relaxing. "That new body scrub you got me is amazing." But I hadn't bought her anything. Not recently. I knew what I had and hadn't brought into this house. That scrub? Someone else gave her that. And her phone, it was never face up anymore. We'd always had this easy, comfortable transparency when it came to tech. If I got a text, she'd read it to me. If she was driving, I'd answer her calls. Now, it was like her phone had developed a defense system. Always locked. Always tucked screen down behind a napkin, a towel, her arm. Once, I reached for it thinking it was mine, same case, same charger, and she grabbed it with this weird tension in her shoulders like I'd reached for a snake. "Sorry," she said quickly, then softened. "I've just got student info on there from the tutoring group. Gotta be careful." I nodded, but I didn't believe her. Not really. Then there were the events. That's what she called them. Not plans, not dinners. Events. A fundraiser for a local food bank she'd never supported before. An alumni brunch that just happened to be 3 hours away. A 2-night fitness leadership retreat at a nature center she didn't even know existed last year. It wasn't just that she was busy, it was how she was busy. And when. The schedule became a puzzle with missing pieces. Friday evenings vanished first. Then the occasional Thursday. Then random Mondays explained away as committee things or board meetings I'd somehow never heard about before. But the real kicker was how she always looked prepared. Laura had always been beautiful, but lately it felt like she was auditioning for something. Makeup before the gym. Hair curled for grocery runs. A new phone, sleek, bright, twice the cost of her old one that she refused to unlock in front of anyone. Face ID only, she said. It's faster. I didn't argue, but I noticed the way she angled it away when she checked it. I noticed that every notification came silently. No buzz. No ding. Just the faintest glow on her face in a dark room before she'd roll over and turn her back to me. I told myself to stop digging. I told myself I was being paranoid. But then came the night she left in a rush, saying her friend Evelyn had a flat tire on the highway. I offered to go with her just out of instinct, really. It was dark. Roads were slick. But she waved me off. Don't be silly, she said, already grabbing her coat. I've got it. It's just Evelyn. I'll be back soon. She didn't come back until nearly 2:30 a.m. No text. No call. When she walked in, she smelled like hotel shampoo. I sat on the couch, pretending I hadn't been awake the whole time. She looked surprised to see me. Didn't want to wake you, she said. It took forever. And then we had to wait for a tow truck. Which highway? I asked casually like I wasn't dying inside. She blinked. 78, I think? No, maybe 22. Honestly, I was half asleep. I nodded again. That was becoming my thing lately, nodding like I believed her, like I hadn't already heard the crack in her story. Then, a week later, I saw her in the hallway mirror. She didn't know I was watching. She stood by the coat closet, texting. She was smiling. Not just any smile. A private one. One I hadn't seen in months. I turned the corner too fast and startled her. She shoved her phone into her coat pocket and looked up with wide eyes. Hey, she said quickly. Didn't hear you. Who was that? She laughed. Just Maya. Talking about planning another trip. You okay? I wanted to say no. I wanted to say everything about this felt off. That she didn't smell like the same perfume anymore. That her tone had shifted. That I was starting to feel like a guest in my own house. But instead I just shrugged. Yeah. Just tired. And tired was true. I was tired of pretending not to notice. Tired of chasing shadows in the house we built. Tired of wondering who she was when she wasn't here. That night, I started keeping a mental log. I didn't write anything down. Didn't take *TS or snap photos. Not yet. I just began remembering more sharply dates, outfits, words she used. Like how she called her gym the space now. How she said the team when I asked who was organizing an event but never gave names. How she used we for things I was never part of. One Saturday, she claimed she'd spent the afternoon at a leadership summit at a university in the city. I asked her how it went. It was fine, she said. Lots of speakers. Kind of boring, honestly. Who spoke? She paused. You know, educator types. Nothing exciting. That's when I realized she was lying. Laura never missed a chance to tell me about a good speaker. She once spent 40 minutes explaining a TED Talk to me at dinner. And now she couldn't name one person? Couldn't describe a single breakout session? That's when I knew I was losing her. Or maybe I already had. There was a distance between us I couldn't cross. We slept in the same bed, ate the same dinners, sat through the same school concerts and birthday parties. But somewhere beneath all that, we'd become different people. Or maybe just people keeping secrets. And yet, I still wanted to believe in her. Maybe because I remembered the way she used to rest her head on my shoulder during movies. The way she used to leave sticky notes in my lunch with dumb inside jokes. The way she cried during commercials and made homemade soup when one of the boys got sick. But that version of Laura was fading fast. And whoever she was becoming. I didn't recognize her. The next time she left for an overnight training workshop, I walked into the guest bathroom while she was packing and opened the travel bag she'd left on the counter. Inside was perfume I'd never seen. Lingerie still in the packaging. A small bottle of red wine tucked into a side pocket. And a receipt from a boutique hotel 40 minutes from our house, dated 2 weeks ago. She must have forgotten it was in there. When I heard her footsteps on the stairs, I zipped it up, walked out, and said nothing. But in that moment, something inside me went still. Not broken. Just still. Like a lake that's been frozen over. You can't see the cracks, but you know they're there. She kissed me on the cheek before she left. Said she'd call when she got to the retreat center. I nodded. And that night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with the lights off, holding that hotel receipt in my hand, and I waited for her call, for the truth, for something that would make this all make sense. But nothing came. Just more silence. And a feeling I couldn't shake anymore. She wasn't coming back. Not really. Because part of her had already left. I didn't want proof. That's the truth no one talks about. You think you do, you think you want certainty, clarity, something undeniable to smash the doubt into pieces, but when it finally lands in your hands, it doesn't feel like resolution. It feels like collapse. It started with a glitch. Laura's old tablet had been sitting in a drawer in the office for months. A dusty relic from the era when she still preferred typing lesson plans on a full keyboard and keeping all her reading apps in one place. I only pulled it out because I needed to order a part for the dishwasher and my phone had died. I plugged it in, thinking it'd take a while to boot. Instead, the screen lit up like it hadn't missed a day. And there it was, her name, still the primary user. Same background photo, the boys at the beach, sand in their hair, cheeks flushed from sunburn and popsicles. I should have closed it. I should have had the self-control to walk away. Instead, I opened the messaging app. Maybe it was muscle memory. Maybe it was instinct. But I tapped it without thinking, and there they were, hundreds of messages. Not all current. Not all recent. But the newest ones were from just days ago, synced through the cloud. They weren't addressed to Maya. Or Evelyn. Or anyone whose name had ever been casually dropped during dinner. The contact name was saved as Eli T. The first message I saw was short. Miss your laugh. That thing you do when you're nervous, it's my favorite. I froze. I scrolled up. Slowly. Reluctantly. My fingers felt numb, like they belonged to someone else. Message after message, back and forth. Late nights. Early mornings. The kind of closeness that doesn't happen by accident. Photos. Some selfies. Some **TS of inside jokes. A picture of the back seat of a car with 2 coffees in the cup holder and a caption, your favorites, on the left. Another of a room with tall windows and white sheets, the timestamp matching a weekend she said she was in the mountains with the girls. But that wasn't the worst of it. The worst was the receipt. Tucked into a file she'd emailed herself and forgotten to delete, probably assuming the old tablet was dead for good. It was a PDF confirmation from a motel, Roseview Inn, room 214, 2 guests, 1 queen bed. Dated exactly 3 weekends ago. I stared at it for a long time. Then I Googled the motel. It wasn't a romantic getaway. It wasn't the kind of place you'd choose for comfort or luxury. It was just off the highway, the kind of place where curtains stay shut and the parking lot always has one too many pickup trucks with out-of-state plates. 35 minutes from our house. 35. Not a girl's trip. Not a retreat. Not a fundraiser. Just a man. And a motel. And my wife. I should have felt rage. I expected to. But what came instead was something quieter, emptiness. I set the tablet down. Not slammed. Not thrown. Just placed. Then I walked upstairs and stared at myself in the bathroom mirror for a long time. I looked the same. Maybe a little more tired. A little older than last month. But everything had shifted. The man in the reflection wasn't a husband anymore, not really. Later that night, Laura came home. It was almost 10 p.m. She walked in humming to herself, flipping through her phone, a grocery bag on one arm. She paused when she saw me at the table, said, "Hey, you're still up?" Like I wasn't in the middle of the biggest unraveling of my life. I nodded. Yeah. She set the bag on the counter. I grabbed the boys' favorite cereal. They were out last time. You okay? You look pale. I didn't answer right away. I watched her instead. Watched how easily she moved. How light she was. How good she had become at lying. I found your tablet, I said softly. She froze just for a second. Then kept unpacking the bag. Oh, that old thing still works? Wow. Thought it was dead. Apparently not, I said. There was a pause. She didn't ask what I saw. That told me everything. She put the cereal away. Opened the fridge. Closed it again. Like she didn't know what to do with her hands. Then finally she turned. Joel, her voice was soft. Deliberate. Like she was choosing her words from a list in her head. I don't know what you think you saw, but it's not. I held up a hand. Don't. She swallowed. Blinked fast. It's not serious. You rented a motel room. I made a mistake. No, I said. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is saying something cruel when you're mad. You made a choice. Repeatedly. She went quiet. And in that silence I could feel the house shifting around us. The walls we painted together. The table we bought secondhand and refinished in the garage. The fridge covered in crayon art and reward stickers. It all felt false. Not because it wasn't real, but because it had been built on the assumption that she was someone else. I wasn't planning to hurt you, she whispered. But you did. I didn't mean for it to go that far. But it did. She sank into a chair across from me. Hands folded. Eyes tired. Joel? I felt invisible. I nodded slowly. So you made yourself visible to someone else. I didn't know how to fix us, she said. And then things just spiraled. Why didn't you talk to me? She shook her head. Because you're good. You've always been good. I didn't want to break that. I didn't want you to look at me differently. Too late. That night, we didn't yell. We didn't throw things. There was no storm of emotion. Just the quiet kind of devastation, the kind that settles in the bones and won't leave. She went to bed in the guest room. I stayed on the couch, wide awake, with the tablet beside me. I reread the messages even though I didn't need to. I already knew every word by heart. The next morning, she tried to act normal. She made coffee, asked if the boys had their lunch packed, said she might take a walk later. I didn't respond. I went through my day like a ghost. Work, emails, dishes, homework, help. But at night, I started organizing. I opened a folder on my laptop. I labeled it Truth. I filled it with **TS. Forwarded emails, photos from the synced cloud, the receipt, the timestamps, the motel's address, a map, not to use, not yet, but to remind myself that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't imagining it, that I hadn't built my life on quicksand without realizing it. I didn't confront her again. I didn't scream or demand answers. I watched, listened, waited. She had handed me the truth unintentionally. And now I had it. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like loss. Like standing at the edge of something that had once been warm and familiar and realizing there was no way back. Just forward. Into whatever came next. The message came the next morning. I hadn't spoken to Laura since the night I found the receipt. We'd spent the evening in separate rooms orbiting each other like two moons on a dying planet. I heard her getting ready for work, the soft clicks of her heels against the hardwood, the bathroom fan, the kettle. All the sounds I'd memorized suddenly made hollow. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One attachment. A photo. I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. At first glance, it looked ordinary, two people sitting across from each other at an outdoor cafe. But my eyes locked in on the woman immediately. Laura. Laughing, leaning forward, her hand on top of a man's. Not a hug, not a kiss, not anything graphic. But an asterisk made in the way that people are when they forget they're being watched. I knew the man too. His name hit me like a slap, Graham Charles. Public speaker. Author of those Reclaim Your Power type books. He'd hosted a seminar at our son's school last year. Big community guy. Always on some nonprofit board. I remember shaking his hand at a fundraiser and thinking he talks like a politician but smiles like he means it. He was also married. His wife, Hazel Charles, chaired the city's education board. I'd seen her in passing. Sharp dresser. Sharp smile. The kind of woman who remembered names and birthdays and didn't miss a beat. Her reputation was spotless. Until now. The photo was followed by a text. I thought you should know. I'm Hazel. Call me when you're ready. I stared at the name for a long time. Hazel. The wife. The other half of this betrayal I hadn't even known existed. My hands were shaking when I called her. She picked up on the second ring. Joel? Her voice was calm. Controlled. Like she was expecting a client, not the other betrayed party in a mutual wreck. Yeah. I got your message. Thank you for calling. There was a pause. Not awkward, just waited. She sighed. I wish we were talking under different circumstances. Me too. Another pause. I found the messages 6 weeks ago, she said. Graham didn't know his work iPad was still syncing with her home cloud. He got sloppy. Same here, I said. Old tablet. She forgot to wipe it. A moment of silence. It felt like shared oxygen. I didn't know your name until I saw them together, Hazel continued. Then I started digging. Found the school board rosters, community event photos, matching timestamps. Laura's name came up too many times for it to be coincidence. She told me she was on retreats, I muttered. She told him she was helping me prep for campaigns. Hazel gave a bitter laugh. We should have compared notes sooner. For a moment, we just breathed. I'm not looking to cause a scene, Hazel said eventually. This isn't about revenge. It's about control. And truth. And making sure they don't walk away from this thinking they can rewrite the story. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. So what do you have in mind? I have photos. **TS. Emails from his dummy account. Do you have anything? Hotel receipts. Messages. A timeline. Good, she said, and her tone sharpened like a scalpel. Then we start with silence. No confrontations. No warning. Let them stay comfortable. Why? I asked. Because panic makes people sloppy. But guilt, she said. Guilt keeps them off balance. It makes them dig their own graves. Trust me, Joel. I've done this before, professionally. I didn't doubt her. Hazel didn't sound hurt. She sounded focused. Like she'd already grieved and moved on to the blueprint stage of pain. We spoke for nearly an hour. She was detailed, methodical. She didn't vent. She didn't spiral. She plotted. And to my surprise, I found comfort in it. For weeks, I'd been drowning in quiet suspicion, second-guessing my own instincts. Now I was speaking to someone who knew the same betrayal down to the minute. Who had done the work, tracked the lies, followed the trail? Before we hung up, she said, "We're not the villains here, Joel. Don't let them make you feel like the reaction is worse than the betrayal." I exhaled for what felt like the first time in days. I won't. That night, I didn't wait up for Laura. She came home after 9, still in her work blazer, hair perfectly in place. I stayed at the kitchen table, finishing some invoices for a freelance job I'd picked up on the side. She walked in, kissed me lightly on the head, and said, "You okay?" "Fine," I said, not looking up. "You've been quiet lately." "Just tired." She hovered for a moment, then walked off toward the stairs. No apology. No guilt. Just silence and steps fading into the hallway. Hazel was right. They weren't worried yet. So we waited. Over the next few days, Hazel and I exchanged files. Photos. Emails. Social media posts. Time logs. Each one another puzzle piece. I'd catch myself staring at them, tracing the timeline backward like some sick historian. Laura had lied about everything, where she was, who she was with, even what she was fighting for. Once, she told me she'd been attending a workshop on trauma-informed teaching. She was in room 214 of the Roseview in that day. Another time, she claimed she was volunteering with a nonprofit. That was the same night Hazel had tracked Graham's location to a lakeside Airbnb with only one car in the driveway. Piece by piece, the web came into focus. And here's the strangest part, I stopped feeling angry. The rage had burned out. What replaced it was colder. Cleaner. A quiet kind of strength. I didn't ask her questions anymore. Didn't wait for her at the door. I listened. I watched. I stored. Hazel called it emotional detachment. She said it was necessary if I wanted to come out the other side without becoming a bitter version of myself. Use their calm against them, she said. Let them mistake your quiet for trust. That's when people say the dumbest things. She was right. 3 nights later, Laura brought up the idea of another weekend away. "Just me and Maya," she said. "You've been working so hard, I thought you could use the space." I stared at her for a long time, then said, "Yeah, maybe I could." She smiled, kissed my cheek, and walked away like she hadn't just stepped on a landmine. I texted Hazel that night. "He's letting her go away again. This weekend." She replied, "He's speaking at a retreat. I bet it's the same place." Then, time to start sharing the story. Quietly. She didn't post online. She didn't scream in public. She started with parent groups, committee chats, community boards. Just the facts. No commentary. A single screensh asterisk T here. A timeline there. The truth leaked slowly. Organically. Laura didn't notice it at first. She was too focused on whatever world she thought she had built with him. But Hazel and I knew better. And now so did others. The cracks had started to show. All we had to do was let them widen. And I was ready. The unraveling didn't happen all at once. That would have been too clean, too cinematic. Instead, it came like a slow leak. Quiet at first. Then impossible to ignore. Hazel didn't believe in big gestures. She didn't post screensh asterisk TS with dramatic captions or name drop in angry threads. She was smarter than that, more patient. She called it passive exposure. A truth campaign, not a smear one. It started in the parent volunteer group chat. A cropped photo. Just hands. Laura's and Graham's unmistakably intertwined on a cafe table, half-finished lattes nearby. No faces. No tags. Just the image followed by a message. "I think we should talk about boundaries between leadership and board members." No names. But everyone knew. The reaction was subtle at first. A few parents left the group chat quietly. One mom commented with a single thinking face emoji. By the end of the day, Laura had messaged me asking if I'd noticed anything weird with the school community thread. I just shrugged. Nope. Why? She looked at me like she couldn't tell if I was serious. Then muttered something about jealous people making drama and walked out of the room. Hazel kept going. Every few days, she'd seed another thread. A different platform. The PTA's private Facebook page. A subforum for the local charter school alliance. Even the charity network's internal Slack. Always the same tactic, suggestive facts, light commentary, a breadcrumb or two. Nothing explicit enough to warrant removal, but just enough to get tongues wagging. And it worked. By week's end, Laura's name was no longer mentioned in the usual glowing terms. She stopped getting tagged in volunteer threads. She was accidentally left off emails she once led. I overheard her one evening trying to log into the school forum and muttering under her breath, "Why can't I access this stupid page?" She asked me if I'd heard anything. I said no. And I hadn't directly. No one confronted me. But the tone shifted when I dropped the boys off. People nodded without smiling. Conversations tapered off when I walked into the teacher's lounge. I wasn't being judged, I was being studied. Like everyone was trying to figure out how much I knew. If I was the fool or the collateral. Laura, though, started to crack. She came home one night visibly shaken, dumped her purse on the kitchen table, and snapped, "This is getting ridiculous." "What is?" "The gossip. The comments. The way people are looking at me. You think I committed a crime." I looked at her. "Did you?" She flinched. "That's not funny." I wasn't joking. A few days later, I heard from our friend Danny, well, Laura's friend technically, but we'd all shared dinners and school trips for years. She called me out of the blue. "Joel, I didn't know who to believe at first," she said. "But people are talking and the screensh asterisk TS, they're everywhere now." I didn't respond. I didn't have to. She continued, "I'm so sorry. If there's anything I can do." "There isn't," I said. "But thanks." The following morning, 2 of the nonprofits Laura had been active with removed her name from their leadership pages. No announcement. No fanfare. Just gone. She noticed right away. She stood over the kitchen island with her laptop open, hitting refresh like it would bring her name back. "I don't get it," she murmured. "There must be some mistake." I said nothing. She looked at me. "You think this is about?" I met her eyes. "You tell me." She didn't answer. And then came the calls she didn't return. The invitations that stopped coming. The friend who needed space. The parent who abruptly changed carpool plans. Every move Hazel made was strategic. Controlled. She wasn't trying to burn down Laura's life. Just remove the pillars that propped up her performance. And without them, Laura began to deflate. She still tried to act normal at home. She packed lunches. Folded laundry. Asked about my day. But there was a hollowness to it now, like a bad actress trying to find her way back into a role she'd forgotten how to play. Then, one evening, she came to me while I was watching a show in the den. She stood behind the couch, arms folded. "Can we talk?" I muted the TV. "Sure." "I don't know what's happening," she said, eyes wide, almost teary. "People are turning on me. I'm getting strange looks. I lost 2 board positions this week and nobody will tell me why." I waited. She continued, "I feel like someone's poisoning the water. Like someone's out to ruin me." I turned in my seat, stared up at her. "You sure it's someone else doing the ruining?" Her face changed. Like I'd peeled back her last defense. "You think I deserve this?" I exhaled. "I think actions have consequences. And I think for a long time you were betting no one would ever call you on them." She looked like she wanted to scream. Instead, she walked out of the room and slammed the door to the laundry closet so hard it echoed. The thing was, I hadn't told a soul. Not one friend. Not one coworker. I hadn't posted, hadn't whispered. I let Hazel's plan do the work. And it did. What I'd once called paranoia was now community knowledge. Not public headlines, not gossip column fodder, but soft, devastating clarity passed from inbox to inbox. Whisper to whisper. The pedestal Laura had spent years building had been quietly, systematically dismantled. And I wasn't going to save her from the fall. She left again that Friday. Another girls' weekend. More bags. More perfume. A different phone charger she insisted on bringing even though the regular one still worked fine. I watched her load the car. She hesitated by the driver's side like she wanted to say something, maybe to confess, maybe to lie again, but in the end, she didn't say anything at all. Just a glance. A weak wave. And then she was gone. This time I didn't follow. Because I didn't need to. Because I already knew. I sat in the silence after she pulled away, the house calm for the first time in weeks. I made dinner for the boys, cleaned up, turned on the porch light. And when I locked the door that night, I knew something had shifted finally and fully. I wasn't the one being left anymore. She was 2 days after Laura left, a brick shattered the living room window. No note, just a flash of panic in the boy's eyes and glass across the floor. That night, I noticed a car idling across the street. The next morning, a drone buzzed near the backyard fence. Hazel called me before I could call her. "Graham's pushing back," she said. "He has connections. Not the clean kind." Laura returned suddenly rattled. She begged me to stay somewhere safe. But I didn't flinch. Instead, I started archiving everything, emails, receipts, photos, into a hard drive labeled Truth. Because fear wasn't going to decide my story. I handed the evidence to Hazel's lawyer. No press. No drama. Just a quiet transfer of weight. When Laura returned a week later, she found the locks changed, alarm reset, and her bags neatly stacked on the porch. No note. No confrontation. Just silence. A month later, I sold the house and moved north. Quiet town, new job, a dog named Murphy. I run in the mornings. I cook for myself. No secrets. No shadows. For the first time in years, I don't feel haunted. I feel whole. Betrayal didn't break me. It released me. I didn't lose myself, I came home to him.